Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Boxing Podcast. We are sponsored by 32 Red. I'm your host, Dev Sani, and with me is a man whose 10-year challenge photo we all need to see. It is, of course, Mr. Steve Lillis.
Oh, Dev, we're just back for after the new year, and you're putting that pressure on me to see a 10-year photo.
I want to see it. Have you done one yet?
I haven't, mate. I haven't. When I see the Sani one on Facebook, I might enter.
You're not going to see mine. When 10 years ago, I had all slits in my eyebrows and stuff like that. I thought it was cool. But with your one, there's a good story. You lost about 8 stone or something, haven't you?
Yeah, not quite that. Half that.
That's pretty good going. And Steve, I've got to ask you, have you caught your breath yet from Warrington versus Frampton?
Oh, what a night. What a fight. Absolutely fantastic occasion, even better event, and an even better fight. I thought both men showed what they're all about. There was pride, there was heart, there was every skill, everything in that fight. I thought that the right man, Warrington, the winner, was fantastic. And I think Carl, the way how he took punishment in those first 2 rounds and never went down was phenomenal. And it was a losing effort from Carl, but it's one he can rightly be proud of. As for Josh Warrington, certain fighters, and I've said this before the fight and after to people, he's at that period, like Ricky Hatton was at, when for 18 months, he could be pretty much untouchable as a featherweight. And I can see why he just wants big fights, bigger fights, and even bigger fights before he calls it a day. So I don't think he's the sort of guy that's going to be boxing into, well into his 30s through his own choice.
Yeah, I hear that, Steve. I hear that, Steve. He's got all the momentum with him, and let's hope we see him in some even bigger fights. Well, this week we are starting the year with a bang. We're starting it with Frank Warren. Steve catches up with him and discusses everything that he's working on. We hear from British super featherweight champion Sam Bowen. There's his Leicester rival super featherweight Lyon Woodstock on the show. And we hear from Dominic Ingle. And there is so much more. Welcome back to the Boxing Podcast. Let's talk boxing. Well, where better to start the show than with a promoter who dominated the month of December last year. He kicked it off with Deontay Wilder against Tyson Fury on the 1st and finished up with Josh Warrington against Carl Frampton on the 22nd. It's fair to say he's got some big plans for 2019. This is Steve Lillis with Frank Warren.
Frank, thanks for joining us on the podcast. Happy New Year to you, and will it be a great new year in boxing for you?
Well, first of all, Happy New Year to you, Steve, and everybody who listens. I hope it will be. We had a great year last year. We finished on a high. I think putting on 2 of the best shows this country's seen for a long time. Tyson Fury against Wilder and Josh Warrington and Carl Frampton.
Yeah, they were superb shows, and you mentioned both fighters there. Tyson Fury, what is the latest with him as we speak today, Frank? When he might be out, who he might be fighting?
Well, he got back from Spain last night. We're meeting up towards the end of the week to make that decision.
There's talk of him and Joshua. Has there been any offer made at all?
No offer was made to me, and I'm his promoter. But he did receive an offer which was derisory.
Would you be willing to sit down and discuss that fight for April against Joshua?
Well, we'll see what happens. At the moment we're focusing on... I think it's a desperation stakes from the other lot. They got into such a mess. I think that it's causing them... I think it's just causing them a problem. Dillian Wyatt's sitting there. If I was Dillian Wyatt, I'm number 1 rated. Who's pushing for him for the fight? What's going on there? No one's pushing for it. He should, and he should be getting well paid for the fight, for his rematch. They want to chump change everybody. But we're focusing at the moment in our negotiations with Shelley Finkel, who represents Deontay Wilder, trying to get that over the line.
Yeah, and that's the fight that everyone really wants to see, because it made sure not just, it was a great end to the year for yourself and the pay-per-view event on BT, but it was a great year great fight for boxing to end of, a memorable heavyweight fight that people will talk about in 25 years' time.
Quite right. It was a fantastic fight. It was dramatic. You name it, it had it. And unfortunately, our man, the judges, I think, did not give him the fight. They should have done it. I thought he was robbed. But the bottom line is, it's a great rematch, and that's the one Tyson wants, and that's the one that Deontay wants.
And you also mentioned Josh Warrington. I understand there's purse bids for his fight with Kid Galahad next week. Do you expect those to go ahead?
Well, I don't know yet, because we only received a letter yesterday saying that Matchroom acting on behalf of Josh Warrington called for purse bids. Well, they don't act on behalf of Josh Warrington, so I don't know what's going on, to be quite honest. So we got that last night, so we'll speak to the IBF when they open up in the States today and find out what the position is.
Yeah, I mean, is it a fight that he really needs because there's big unifications, he talks of big fights, or is it something he might just have to take?
I don't know, really. We're meeting tomorrow. He's coming down to see me tomorrow with his manager, Steve Wood, and we're going to have his dad, Sean, and we're going to make our decision what direction we're going.
What direction do you want to, what was your side for him to go in, do you think?
Well, it depends. I mean, I want to see unification fights. That's what I'm interested in. So we'll see what happens tomorrow.
And, of course, your first show of the year is going to be in Leicester. Sam Bowen against Ronnie Clark, a fantastic British title fight.
It is. It's a great fight. And, I really do like Sam. I think he's an excellent fighter. And Ronnie Clark upset the odds predictions in beating Zelfa Barrett. So I think we've got a bit of a, as you say, got a fantastic fight in our hand there, and Anthony Yard's on the undercard. And
what's your plans for Anthony for 2019? Because he seems to be a fighter that there's an enormous lot of stick goes his way, Tunde, Jay's way, and your way about the way he's matched.
I don't see what the problem is the way he's matched. I mean, he's fought decent fighters. I don't get what that's all about. That's just like a bit of propaganda that's gathered some momentum. But the fact of the matter is, everybody he's fought, certainly his last few fights, they've all been ranked above anybody who's in this country. And his next one, he's fighting a guy, was the Frenchman, who I think is going to give him a good fight. And then after that, we're looking at the winner of the WBO fight, title fight.
Oh, Alvarez and Alido Alvarez and Kovalev, that's on Box Nation on February 2.
We're looking at our options. We're looking for bigger and better things. In the meantime, we just get on with it. I'll just get on with it and do my job with it.
Also, in March, you're returning to the Royal Albert Hall, a fantastic venue.
It is. There's been some iconic nights there in boxing, in British boxing, going back, God knows how many years, might be 100 years nearly, or so. But I'm really looking forward to there. We're going to put a good show on there. We've got a world title fight going on. I've got Daniel Dubois will be on there. We'll be announcing those details in the next few days.
And I understand it'll be Nicola Adams in a world title fight.
Yeah, she's signed to fight a Mexican champion, so we've got a home advantage. So she's stepping up to fight for her first world title.
And Daniel Dubois against Razvan Cavano, who gave Gorman such a good fight.
Well, he gave him a good fight. He gave Parker a good fight, didn't he? Let's see what this young man can do. He's got less experience than all of them. Let's see what he can do.
Dubois Gorman, is that a fight for this year, or is that one you're going to wait a year or so for?
No, end of the year, early next year. I think we'll be looking for that to happen.
And of course, also on that Albert Hall bill, Liam Williams against Joe Mullender. What are you going to have? About a 12-foot ring for that, for those to smash into each other?
We could put that in the phone box outside. But yeah, what they're going to need, that's going to be, as soon as the bell goes, that's going to be a war, isn't it? No doubt about that.
And before we let you go, Frank, we can't not ask about Billy Joe Saunders. When can we expect to see him back in action?
Well, I hope he's going to be out in April. We're working on it, and that's the plan, for him to be out in April.
I mean, and there was some stories, the reports last week, you've spoken to Golovkin's people. Could he be an April opponent?
I doubt he'll be an April opponent, but we are speaking to them.
What sort of vibes are you getting from them? Is it a fight that interests them?
I'm not sure at the moment, to be quite honest. 1 minute they're hot, then they're cold. I mean, we signed for the fight twice already, and it didn't happen. So I'm not sure yet. But yeah, that's the type of fights. They're the type of fights that Bill wants.
Because it was a wasted year last year, wasn't it, for him? So
total wasted. Some was self-inflicted, but the ban was ridiculous.
Well, that was Hall of Fame promoter Frank Warren. That interview was conducted before the news broke that the WBC have actually ordered the rematch now between Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. It was sanctioned before, which just meant basically that they weren't going to force the mandatory. They were going to step aside and let negotiations take place. Now it's actually been ordered. Steve Lillis, what says you?
Wow, what great news for Tyson Fury, because he is guaranteed in his next fight a shot at the WBC World Heavyweight title. And no one can deny him that, because after his last performance against Deontay Wilder in December, when he was robbed by the judges, but more than a robbery was his Undertaker-type rise in round 12, when everybody in Wilder's corner was celebrating. Wilder was celebrating. Tyson's trainer, Ben Davison, had his head in his hands, and suddenly Tyson emerged from the canvas, got up, and was winning the fight by the end of the round. One of the greatest comebacks since Lazarus.
Yeah.
And now he's got his shot again against Deontay Wilder. And you know what? I've often been critical of the WBC, but fair play to them here, because they're giving boxing a fight it wants to see. Boxing is in a real healthy position at the moment, but when the heavyweight division is strong, boxing is even healthier. And with Wilder, Fury, and Anthony Joshua at the top, it's great for the game. Let's not start saying what heavyweights from this era and that era would have done. It's a healthy place with those three winning. And I'm made up for Tyson, and I'm made up for Wilder, because he's going to get the chance to, improve on that draw. Tyson's going to get the chance to show he can outbox Wilder for long periods. It's a fantastic fight. And look, all respect to Anthony Joshua, the best fight in the heavyweight division now is the rematch of the December draw from Los Angeles.
Exactly that. That's the fight that I want to see, just because there's unfinished business there. And you look at the buzz that it created. It had a great buzz heading into the fight. Look at the buzz that it created after the fight. Deontay Wilder was on the James Corden show, like popping up behind him. Tyson Fury was, he was a bit marked up. He was on Good Morning Britain the next day. It was incredible. And it just feels like it's a tremendous story that is not yet finished. I want to see this story finished first, and then I want to see the next chapter. I want to see Anthony Joshua fight both of these guys, or certainly the winner. It just feels like that, Steve.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And there was two words you said there, is unfinished business. And when there's unfinished business, when it's been like their first fight, people want to be part of it. Wilder knows he can hurt Fury and drop him. He's done it once. He can do it again, despite what Tyson says. Wilder says Fury can't outbox him. He's done it once. He can do it. He can do it again. Well, the great thing about the rematch, during what will be the longest, a long build-up, hopefully, every day we can go on the internet and we're going to see Tyson Fury climb off the canvas like the WWE wrestler did. That's why I want the rematch as well. Every single day on my computer. First thing in the morning, I wake up, I look at Twitter to see if there's any big news stories overnight. But first thing I see every morning is Tyson Fury rising from the canvas. It'll make me want to get out of bed every morning. And that's not a pretty sight.
Good thing to say. And for me, I really loved it. I watched it back again with the American commentary as well. I love how the commentator was like, "Mamma mia, Deontay Wilder," and they were cheering. Then Paulie Malignaggi was like, "He got up. He got up." So it's great, and I'm looking forward to the build up to this one.
I'm looking forward to next time I see you, Dev, more than the fight, because you're going to be doing American accents for me.
Got some later on in the show for you as well, Steve. Listen out for him. And what about Josh Warrington then? He was one of the fighters of the year in 2018, 2019. What do you want to see from him?
Well, I think it's a big year for Josh. I don't think he's going to be about forever. I think he's, I hear little whispers from people that he's looking for another 2 years maximum in the game. I want to see him in big fights. I want to see him fight Oscar Valdez if he, comes through his defence on February 2. I want to see him fight Leo Santa Cruz. I want to see him in those sort of big unification fights, and they're the fights he wants.
I'll tell you what, Valdez Warrington is a fight. As Frank Warren would say, it's got fight written all over it. Well, how do you see that one going?
So I think Josh is on a roll at the moment, and it's going to take someone pretty special to stop him. I'm not sure whether that person who could stop him will be Oscar Valdez.
What about Anthony Yarde there? Frank talks about Anthony Yarde, and he's got a good fight coming up. For me, this is the step up that we've been talking about against Mehdi Amar. Talk to me about that one.
Look, he's better than what he's been fighting, without a shadow of doubt. He's a former European champion. When he lost that European title, he lost to Robert Stieglitz, who he's been a good fighter. He lost to Alexander, I think Vosdyk beat him in an interim WBC title fight. He went the distance with him, a real quality operator. Imagine if Anthony Yarde went and put him away.
Well, that's just it, isn't it? That's the story there, because if Gvozdyk couldn't put Mediamar away, and I watched that fight, and Mediamar was very game in that fight. You know, he gave as good as he got. If Gvozdyk couldn't do it, and then Gvozdyk then went on to knock out Adonis Stevenson, it's actually a bit of a statement, and it's an opportunity for Anthony Yarde to make a statement.
That's right. And let's remember, Gvozdyk, some people are saying he is the best light heavyweight in the world, although, you know, there's other fighters like Bivol with a claim to that, Lidia Alvarez, who we got coming up on Box Nation soon against Sergey Kovalev in a rematch. There's, you know, it's a division where the champions have all got a case to say they're number one, and Gvozdyk is one of those. There's nothing wrong with his fight at all. But you know what? And you can call this the cynic in me. There will still be people who dig out Yarde for this fight. Mark my words.
I'm sure there will be, but that is the boxing world, especially on social media. Yeah, I don't know how many of these people are real people, but there are a lot out there, a lot of accounts certainly. He gets up at 4:30 a.m. He goes for a run. He gets home. He has a shower. He then heads to work for a 10-hour shift building engines for diggers. Then after work, he's driving for 75 minutes to training. Then he's putting in a 90-minute session in the gym. Then he's getting home at around 8:30, maybe 9 o'clock, to spend a bit of time with his missus and his 7-month-old son, if he's awake. That is a day in the life of the British super featherweight champion, Sam Bowen. The grafter has his second fight with Frank Warren on February 23rd at the Leicester Arena and defends his British title against Ronnie the Shark Clark. Here he is with Steve Lillis.
Yes, so Sam, thanks for joining us on the podcast. And your fight against Ronnie Clark at the Morningside Arena, Leicester, on February 23rd. A fight that everyone's looking forward to because your styles are going to clash and make a great fight, I should think.
Yeah, he fights just like me, to be fair, come forward, strong and fit, so it'll suit me better personally because I ain't got to chase him down as much, but no, it's made for a great fight. So. Have
you had a good look at Ronnie? I mean, who caused that great upset against Zelfa last year?
I've seen bits of him. Like I said, I've watched that where he boxed Zelfa. Yeah, to be fair, I haven't watched too many of his fights, so I'll have another look into him over the next few weeks, but I've seen bits and bobs. I've seen what he's about, I've seen his style, so I've seen enough, to be fair. So. Do you leave most of that to Carl Greaves to look at all the fight, and you'll just have maybe a little look for your own peace of mind, so to speak? I think Carl looks, because obviously he's obviously training me. I'll look, I want to see what it's about. Every fight's different, so I mean, I've done it in the past where I've not studied, but I've watched fights, and you think they've got to box one way, and then they box another way, and sometimes it can almost like ruin your fight for you, sort of thing. Like makes your game plan go out the window. So I'll just stick to the normal game plan, and like I say, I'm open, and I think I will win. Yeah.
How dangerous are opponents like Ronnie, whose chances might be few and far between? For example, if he lost to you, he could have a 2-year wait to get back in the picture.
He's a dangerous fighter, and like I say, he beat Zelfa Barrett, and I don't know how many fights has Zelfa had when he boxed him, like about 20 odd unbeaten. You know, I mean, he's a very dangerous opponent, beating people like him. Zelfa's obviously know he did it himself. He's good, he's strong himself. But no, like I say, I'm good as well, so it's been met for a good fight.
How do you rate the rest of the super featherweight, particularly, Lyon Woodstock, who's one of your local rivals, and so it becomes a natural fight because of that?
It would have done in the past. I mean, he's just been beat. To be fair, I'm looking above these fights now. You know, I mean, for me, that'd be a step down. I want to be stepping up. We've offered him the fight in the past. I mean, I don't know if he was there on the last press conference. Like Carl Greaves was saying to him, like, "Do you want to fight Bowen or not?" And they were just like passing it off, not really giving an answer. I mean, now he's been beaten. I suppose he'll probably want to fight me more now because he's not got that many more options. But to be fair, I'm not. That'd be a step down in my opinion. I'll fight anybody, but I don't want to be stepping down. I want to be stepping up. So,
what would he have to do to go and get, in your eyes, to merit a shot at you? Would he have to go and get a big win on a good stage?
Yeah, he's got to build himself back up, ain't he? He's got to get almost in the positions where it's almost mandatory to fight me for things. But I'm hoping by the time he's done that, I'm way above. Like I say, unless he goes and beats a world champion tomorrow, sort of thing, I'm not that interested in fighting him. We was before, because like I said, it would have been a good fight in Leicester, 2 Leicester lads, but 2 to Leicester, I'm looking at that's Midlands area. I'm in my opinion, I'm way out of that area.
I mean, are you looking to stay at British title level though for another fight or two, maybe get a Lonsdale belt, or do you want Frank Warren and Carl Greaves to get you the big shots against the likes of Gervonta Davis, Tevin Farmer?
I said to Carl, I said, well, we're boxing in February, we know, for the British defence. I'm happy to move up. I don't want to be staying at this level too long. I mean, it took us such a long time to get the British title shot with all the withdrawals for the English. I think I only had 2 fights last year. I know that was because of an injury, but I don't want to be staying at this level for too long. The way things are going with the fights and how little I've had last year, obviously due to injury, I mean, I could be still boxing British level for another 2 years at the speed it's going. So ideally, like, box this one, maybe box again, but then see if there's any opportunities. I'll take any opportunities that come.
I mean, what do you think of guys like Gervonta Davis and Tevin Farmer?
Yeah, the quality, but like I say, world level, because they're world champions, ain't they? So yeah, they are good, really quality. And
they're the sort of fights that secure your future financially for yourself and your young family, aren't they?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm in it to provide my family with a good future. I mean, I don't want to be boxing just for Mickey Mouse money. I can earn that in my job, and I ain't got to get punched for it. So the idea is to financially get some decent big fights, and that's what I'm in it for, to do as well as I can and make as much money as I can.
Are you a boxing fan, or are you the sort of guy who, once you're home from work and home from training, you just switch off and it's time for the family? Like, for example, last week you went to Centre Parks and just vanished for a week.
Yeah, I am a boxing fan, but I don't obsess over it. To be fair, I do switch off from it, because otherwise it gets too much and your life just takes over with boxing.
I get the impression you're one of these guys that once you've made your money and become a world champion, when you retire, we might not see too much of you again at boxing shows.
I don't got that many anyway.
OK, we'll never see you at a boxing show then.
If I get invited, I'll go.
How much longer do you think you can continue working at Caterpillar for, as well as combining your career? And I know it's a very good job you got there.
Yeah, I've got a good job. Providing I win this one, which I'm very confident I will, I'll have to have a meeting with Carl and my current sponsor. I'm sponsored by Jordan for Jordan Road Surfacing. Like I say, he's a great bloke and he's looked after me so far. But we'll have to have a meeting after this and discuss me getting to cover my wages from what I do at work. Because after this fight, I can't be fighting at this level and working full time. It's silly. So I mean, I've got a bit of time off for this fight and I've booked a lot of holidays, but then what do I do after this fight? Because you only get like 25 days holiday a year, and I've used most of that for this fight. So definitely after this fight, something's got to change. So.
Yeah, because if you're going to be fighting the likes of Gervonta Davis, Tevin Farmer, world title fights for life-changing money, you can't be running every morning, working 10-hour shifts and then going to a gym. It's impossible to do that and to win them fights, I should think.
Yeah, it's impossible. I'll end up getting beat and possibly hurt, so I don't want to be doing that. I need to be... My job, I've managed it well so far. My job's, it's not demanding as in physics. I'm not lifting like a ton of weight every day. It's just the long days, because the long shifts. I'm just not getting a rest. So with my morning run, we do 10-hour shifts. I do my 10-hour shift, then travel training. Half the time I'm that tired. I'm thinking to myself, I really can't be asked. I do, but I can't be asked to go to the gym. And then I come home and I'm lifeless pretty much. Watch TV, fall asleep on the sofa, and then just go to bed. And it's not great for family life. It's not great for me because I'm just a machine at the moment, just doing this non-stop. So at the moment I'm feeling good. Got a bit of time off for this, so I can train well, rest well, and spend better time with the family. But definitely 100% after this fight, something's got to give, because I can't do all of it. And
one question that mystifies myself: how do you keep getting down to super featherweight? You look like a welterweight when you get in that ring on fight night.
I don't know. My weight's down all the time. To be fair, I don't eat junk. Obviously over Christmas, I enjoy myself a little bit, but I find that I feel so unhealthy when I eat rubbish food, and if I drink like alcohol and stuff, I just feel horrendous. Like I was flued up over Christmas and stuff, and I just think the last thing I want to do is eating junk food. I almost crave healthy stuff because I feel so much better for it. But to be fair, people would be surprised at my weight. I don't know what people assume I walk around at, but I don't walk around massively heavy, to be fair. I find it quite easy to make the weight.
Steve, is this going to be a breakout year for Sam Bowen?
You hope so, won't you? I mean, a lot of people are getting excited for him. I want it to be, and I think he's good enough to be. I mean, if you think you only have to go back 12 months before he beat Maxi Hughes for the British title, and people were talking of him as maybe the third or fourth super featherweight. People were talking, let's be fair, they were talking more about Lyon Woodstock in this country. They were talking about Zelfa Barrett. They were talking about Sam Bowen, and then they were talking about Archie Sharp. Fast forward to January 2019, and the only men standing unbeaten are Sam Bowen and Archie Sharp. Yeah. Zelfa, of course, lost to Ronnie Clark last April, who Sam fights next, and Archie Sharp burst Leon's bubble a few months ago.
Yeah, it's a great fight, though, I'll tell you that. Sam Bowen and Ronnie Clark, because Ronnie Clark is just, he's a lunatic, and he showed that against Zelfa Barrett. That was a real upset that he come to. It was at York Hall. I remember being there, and he really put it on Zelfa Barrett, knocked him down, and got the decision at the end of it. So it's not an easy fight for Sam Bowen.
No, and Sam knows that. You know, Sam's a big fan of Zelfa Barrett. I was speaking to him a couple of days ago, and he was, mentioned Zelfa, what a good fighter he thought he is, and the fact that Sam's taken, into his annual leave at work to prepare for this fight tells you all you need to know. Ronnie Clark is a sort of guy, if you think, chances are going to be, he feels, he's up there in Dundee. He sort of got this siege mentality where he thinks the world's against him, I think, when you listen to his interviews. And he knows these sort of title fights are going to be few and far between for him, or he believes they are. So he's going to go in there to Leicester, and he isn't going to give a monkey that Sam comes from Ibstock, which is 13 miles away from the venue. He is going to go in there and give it all. It's a fight. You don't even need a 16-foot ring for these two to have it away.
It's one that I'm really looking forward to this year. And he talked there about Lyon Woodstock, so that would be a real local derby. But the way he's talking about Lyon Woodstock is he thinks he's past that level. Yeah. Woodstock needs to come back and prove himself. Do you think we'll ever see that fight?
Look, you can still see it. I get what he's saying there. He's now looking to the world. He's number 10 in the world for, I can't think of the WBO champion from the top of my head. Is Ito, a Japanese guy? He's number 10 for that. You're in a division with Gervonta Davis, Tevin Farmer. Should we call them hip fighters where there's big money for facing them? So he's looking towards the world, and he talks about making as much money as he can. But and he does feel he's past that. But in boxing, there's certain fights that have a cocktail, or a cocktail that mix well. And two Leicester fighters, or Leicestershire fighters, should we call it, Sam Bowen and Lyon Woodstock, it's the sort of thing that city would come out for. It's local rivalry. That there's bragging rights, there's pride, so it makes for a good fight, and they'll both get well paid. And as Sam talks about a lot, he's in it to make money. So if Sam believes he's ready for the world and all that, that's not going to happen tomorrow. In his eyes, why not fight a local rival in a fight that means something? Well, I'm sure crossed. If the terms were right, that fight could happen.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed, Steve. Frank does throw his fighters in with each other. He did it a few times last year, so cross your fingers. Well, that was Sam Bowen talking about the super featherweight division. He mentioned a few fighters there. He mentioned Lyon Woodstock. Woodstock is also back at the Leicester Arena on February the 23rd. It's his first fight since taking that loss to Archie Sharp last year. Steve Lillis caught up with him.
Your first fight of 2019, February 23rd in your home city at Leicester Arena. Mm-hmm. Excited to get back in after the Archie Sharp setback?
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. Do you know what I mean? This is what I do. That's what I love doing, fighting. All the training and that's all right. That passes time. But the fighting, that's what I love doing. Do you know what I mean?
When you say the training boring, it's just about getting training to fight.
If I could just get in the ring and fight, I would. I just love fighting. You know what I mean? That's my passion.
I think you showed that in the Archie Sharp fight. You might have lost that night, but you showed how tough you are, didn't you, in that ring?
Oh, of course, 100%. I want to start showing more sides and aspects to my game. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm a very, very, very good boxer. Very good. I know that I can box with the best. Do you know what I'm saying, in the country? But I feel like I've come to a stage in my life in boxing where I'm stuck between styles, so it's trying to find the nice middle.
When you say a nice middle, what do you think that is going to be then, that nice middle?
box when you need to box and fight when you need to fight. Do you know what I mean? Like, just getting a nice middle, because not everyone can do both. Do you know what I'm saying? So, and I know that I can do both at a very good level. It's like some people like very good at boxing and they're all right on the inside. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know that I can do both at a very high level.
How important is it for all the local fighters who are on the bill from Leicester to keep winning and building their records and improving to make this city where it was in the 80s when Tony Sibson was leaving a trail of destruction and Chris Pyatt in the 90s?
Well, from the very beginning, before I even turned pro, like me and Huz was always saying how we want to bring boxing back to Leicester. We want to bring big time boxing back to our city. Do you know what I'm saying? Because it was a big sport. We had some great fighters back in the day. Like you said, Sibson. We had Mackenzie's, both the brothers. We had Pyatt, who is now coaching down here now, which is pretty sick. I like that. Yeah, man. I can't wait to hopefully he gets his pro license, and then he can start like being in my corner with Rog. That'll look good.
Also on the bill, Sam Bowen against Ronnie Clark, which is obviously a fight you'll be taking a keen interest your weight. How do you see that fight going?
I think it's going to be a tougher fight than a lot of people are thinking, to be honest. I don't think Sam's just going to blow Ronnie Clark away. He's not a pushover like that. I feel like Sam will try that, and then when he sees it doesn't work, then Ronnie will just be laughing in his face like, anymore. Do you know what I mean? Then we'll start seeing what Sam Bowen really is about.
What do you think he's about from what you've seen?
From what I've seen? Well, I've seen him from the amateurs. We offered him the fight twice in the amateurs. Remember, he's had over 100 something fights. The first time we offered him the fight, I had 16, and they weren't too keen on it. They didn't want to take it. I got rated 3rd in the country. Do you know what I'm saying? And I only had 20 something fights. And he had over 100, and he's never even got to that. So it speaks for itself. You know what I'm saying? I know my levels and what I'm capable of and what I'm gonna be able to do when that fight comes. Do you know what I'm saying? So it'll be interesting. It'll be a good fight. It'll be a fan favourite fight as well, because a lot of these Leicester people are very divided between Woodstock and Bowen. So.
It's a great fight for the city and the county.
Especially our styles. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I said, I can box and fight, and I don't believe that Sam Bowen is a great boxer. I believe he's tough, he's game, he's fit, he's strong, and he can punch, and that's about it. You know what I mean? But he does it very well. Is
the rematch with Archie Sharp in your mind for down the line this 100%. Year? I mean, everyone would want to see that again.
100%. That's in my mind. Like, I'm not out here trying to chase a fight or anything. If the kid don't want to fight me, then whatever. You know what I'm saying? I literally don't care. But in my head, it's a goal that I would like to move towards. And like I said, if you don't want it, you don't want it. Nothing I can do about it. I'm not going to spend my year chasing a fight that the kid obviously wouldn't want.
A lot of good fighters around the division. Another is Zelfa Barrett. You know, is he going to bounce back, do you think, this year from the Ronnie Clark defeat?
I feel like he went quite quiet after the fight. So I don't know. Again, like I said, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors or inside a fighter's mind. So I don't know where he is mentally. I ain't really seen much from him or anything. For all we know, he could be proper grafting. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't mean physically. Because the more I get into this sport and the more I fight, train, grow into professional boxing, I realise that it's very little to do with physical. I'll tell you right now, it's 95% mental and 5% physical. I promise you. There's been times like in the amateurs where I've not trained, I've not ran, but I thought I was the shit. So I got in the ring and I delivered that because that's what I thought. My mentality was no one in this world can beat me. I'm the best. I'm the most ferocious fighter. I will knock anyone out. As soon as I toe to toe, put my head on their chest, I'm going to demolish them. And that's how I used to think. You know what I'm saying? So mentally, I feel like if you can mentally get this boxing thing right, you'll do very, very well. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm gunning towards now. A lot of people get asking me, what would you change from the Archie Sharp fight, this, that, and the other? And literally, I'll tell you now, physically, I was in the best condition I've ever been in. I was hitting times that I weren't hitting before. I was hitting harder than I was. I stopped 3 or 4 of my sparring opponents. Do you know what I mean? I was on point, but mentally, that's where it all comes from. Here.
After this fight, you kick on further into 2019. What are you looking to achieve this year? Are there any targets?
Well, after this fight, because obviously this is just a combat fight. Build myself back up. I want to start fighting a few more, like I want to keep fighting high caliber opponents, do you know what I mean, with names and that. So I've seen a couple of opponents. I'd like to get a Troy James fight. I'd like to fight Ryan Wheeler, and then I'd like to end the year fighting, what's his name? Archshot. I forgot. Yeah, and then fight Archboy at the end of the year. They're the names that I want. I feel like that would be a good run for me. But if my management says different, then I say different. 2019 is looking very positive.
Now, my man Steve Lillis was a busy man this week. He was on the road. And when he was on the road, he popped into the Ingle gym in Sheffield and caught up with Dominic Ingle, the trainer of Billy Joe Saunders, Liam Williams, Willie Hutchinson and several others in the legendary Wincoback gym. Was in good form as ever.
Dom, let's first of all speak up Willie Hutchinson, 6-0. I think he's a prospect that really excites you.
The Hutch train, 20 years old, 6-0. He's from Scotland. Yeah, very good fighter, good amateur, world amateur champion. And, you know, he fights for fun, he loves fighting, he loves being down here in the Ingle gym. He got plenty of competition. And, yeah, he's a pleasure to work with, to be honest.
As you talk about the competition, what's it like from with Billy Joe and Liam Williams in here?
Well, you know, you think, you know, he's had a couple of spars with Billy Joe, and you think there'd be a bit of respect there with Billy and Billy, you know, that Billy's his world champion. But, you know, unfortunately for Billy, you know, Willie comes to make a name for himself, and that's how it is. You can see that they're not intimidated, and Billy always knows he's in for an hard spar. He's done a lot of sparring with Willie. And, you know, fair play to Billy, he teaches Willie a few things, you know, little tricks he does, and you know, he brings him on. So there's no jealousy there. But he's a good kid. He's got plenty of ambition, and you know, you can see, you talk to Billy, and you can see Billy saying, you know, that reminds me of myself when I was 20 years old. You've got the world to conquer. So yeah, it's going to be a good journey with him.
What were you looking at doing for the rest of your career as a trainer until people like Willie and Jason Quigley turned up here? Did you think, you know, I'll bail out soon myself, or? No,
I mean, the thing is, you know, people said to me over the years that, you know, the fighters, they come and they go, and I had a conversation with one fighter, and he said, you know, when I leave this gym, you know, you'll be more or less done as a trainer. I went, what you've got to remember with being a trainer is as one door closes, another one always opens. And you know, that's the case, and it was refreshing when Willie walked through the door. You know, he's 20 years old. It takes, you know, it can take anywhere between 6 and 10 years to produce a good fighter. You know, to get them where they need to be. You know, Kell Brook turned pro at 18, became world champion at 28. That's 10 years. You look at the other fighters. Billy's, you know, a good amateur career, amateur for 4 or 5 years, became world champion. And you know, Willie Hutchinson will probably be my last project. He's 20 years old. You know, he's going to have a good long career. He's probably going to box for 10 or 12 years. By that time, you know, I'll be coming up for me pension, I think. But as long as I've got these kids coming through the door who are ambitious and willing to learn, and they're easy to train, you know, I can do this job forever and a day. It's a great job to have. You know, training. I love training myself, training fighters. And you know, he's not hard work. He's keen to learn. He's been around. He's been with different trainers. He's been around the amateur scene. So you know, I think he's happy here. You know, it's a good environment. He's away from home, and that's a lot for a young kid at 20 years old. He's got a family back in Scotland. His mum and his dad, big family, likes to be around them. So every now and again, every couple of weeks, he'll go back there for a few days, and it works well. He's disciplined when he goes back home. He does the workouts I tell him to do, and I think we're going to see, you know, a lot from him in the future. It's going to be 1 or 2 years before he hits the big time. 22, 23, when he's properly matured. But you know, he's got a punch like a kick from a mule. He's got a good boxing brain, and yeah, he's just a pleasure to be around.
Yeah, you mentioned there Kell Brook taking that 8 years to win a world title. How patient do we have to be with Willie, bearing in mind he's only 20, and we're in a generation where people seem to want everybody fighting for a world title after 12 fights?
Well, that's true, and you know, sometimes that happens, and fighters go on and have a good career. But you know, even though he's a good boxer, he's got to learn a lot of other things. He's got to learn patience, and you know, they all want this glam lifestyle at 22, 23, driving around in big cars and wearing Rolexes. You know, boxing's a long-term project, and you know, we've had fighters like Johnny Nelson and Junior Witter over the years, what took a long time. They became world champions at 30 years old. So you know, you learn from that, and it's, you know, you can't, no matter how good you think your fighter is, you can't be slinging them in at too early age when they're not experienced enough to deal what's going to come after that. They might have an easy world title fight, or they might be lucky to fight for a vacated title, but what comes after that is where the hard work's going to be. So you know, Willie unbeaten at the minute. and we're going to keep him unbeaten. We're going to, work on him, steer him through the danger years like 21, 22, 23. He's only a young lad, plenty of distractions. Luckily, he's settled. He's got a girlfriend. He's got a good family around him. We're all level-headed, and that plays a lot in boxing because you've got nobody, whispering in his ear. He should be doing this and he should be doing that. He's got good advice from everybody all around. He's got a good manager, Shelley Finkel. He's got a good promoter, Frank Warren. So it's just a case of getting him through to the point, to the big fights. And I think when he does get that big fight, he will become world champion in a few years' time, and he'll stay there for a very long time.
Let's just touch on a couple more of your fighters. Liam Williams is someone you must have been pleased how quickly he's made progress with you. Because, he had those couple fights against Liam Smith that didn't go to plan, and now, he's back now after winning the British title.
Maybe if he'd have won them fights, maybe his career would be over by now. I see Liam Williams has gone a different route, gone a different promoter, and trying to reinvent himself. But Liam Williams has stuck with the same promoter and reinvented himself with one fight. It was a fantastic performance. He brought himself back round again. Created a bit of interest. Mark Efron was a big name, a big puncher. I think people have got big ideas for him. But it was a case of bringing out in Liam Williams what he had. And, sometimes he had to realise that himself instead of just doing the same old thing, going at crash bang wallop. I've watched him loads of times and he looks like a man who's very angry. He reminds me of a very angry Miguel Cotto. And like I said to him, get back to your boxing. He could always box. But he didn't have the patience for the boxing. He just wants to go in and rip somebody's head off. And it was a great fight. He stuck to the boxing. He stuck to the game plan, and it paid off. And hopefully, there's going to be some big fights down the line for him. He's only 26. He can box at middleweight or light middleweight. I think he'd be better at light middleweight. He'll be a big light middleweight. And I think we can get some good fights. See him in some good fights.
And Billy Joe Saunders, what do you expect or hope for him in 2019?
There's always, the danger. When Billy first came to me, boxed Monroe, they had a fantastic fight, David Lemieux, and straight in the back of my mind then was, it's a great thing that he won, but I've seen this happen so many times before that I'm not saying that Billy rested on his laurels, that when they've had a fight like that and everybody's telling you how good you are, it's very difficult to get back in and recreate what you've done, and really he has wasted 12 months. Fights have fallen through, probably his own fault. And then he managed to get one in more or less a year later against nobody special, just had a run out. But I think it's made him realise after wasting a year, he's got to really knuckle down this year and get 2 or 3 fights in. He's got the capabilities. He's living up in Sheffield. He's been training all the way through the year. He's just never managed to put it into a fight. So I've trained him this morning. We've had a chat. And I said to him, look, we've got no time to waste. We've got to get back on it. There's kids coming through now. People are moving on. You've got your title's gone. So you've got to get in some fights, get in some big fights and get your title back. And he's motivated. He's come back from Christmas in a decent weight, decent shape, to be honest, which is unusual for him. And he's got to, we're a year gone from the Lemieux fight. Fantastic performance, but he just never built on it. So we've got to get back on that. And he's got to be back in the gym and have some ambition about him and get his world title back.
Well, that was Dominic Ingle. He mentioned there that Liam Williams went to another promoter. Of course, he meant Liam Smith, who has gone on to pastures new. And we wish all the best to Beefy. We've had some great nights covering him. Let's talk boxing schedule. Let's talk about what's coming up on Box Nation. Steve, talk to me. You got some announcements, right?
A top night of action on Box Nation Friday. Come Saturday morning, 2:30 a.m. Dev. We've got Brian Jennings in action, the heavyweight, and Shakur Stevenson, who to many people is the best prospect in the world. Shakur's got plenty to say for himself, and he's already calling out Josh Warrington, the IBF champion. He's got plenty to say for himself, and he's up against a Filipino called Jesse Chris Rosales, who's 22-1-1. His only loss came against Johnny Gonzalez, the Mexican. I know he was a featherweight champion. He might have won a world title, another weight as well. Top of the bill is Brian Jennings, who fights Oscar Rivas, who trains with Eliadar Alvarez, the WBA light heavyweight champion. They're best friends. But Jennings is he's one of these guys he reminds me of these 80s heavyweights who were recycled. He got beaten on points by Vladimir Klitschko in a world title fight. He then got banged out in a really good fight by Luis Ortiz in about 7 rounds. But he's gone to Top Rank. He's had 5 winning fights since losing to Ortiz. He's now in the top 10 with most governing bodies again. And he's number 2 for the WBO title held by Anthony Joshua. Number 1 is Dillian Wyatt. So Top Rank will get him a world title fight if he stays busy. He's, as I say, and Rivas, who he's fought, is 25-0, but he hasn't really fought anywhere like this level. His last fight was against a Brazilian called Fabio Maldonado. So he's got to find that little bit extra. He was a very good amateur, Rivas, and he beat Kubrat Pulev at the Olympics, I think 2008.
Oh, really?
So,
that's
so
good name.
If Rivas is going to beat Jennings, it's going to be with his boxing. But you'd imagine that Top Rank's plan is to keep Jennings unbeaten and manoeuvre him into that mandatory position. Now, I don't know when the WBO are going to slap a mandatory on Anthony Joshua to fight Dillian Wyatt. If they do and that fight does take place, the next mandatory in about 12 months will be Bryant Jennings for that title. If Dillian Wyatt says no, if they put a mandatory on him, you'll most probably see Dillian Wyatt and Bryant Jennings for the vacant title. So Jennings has got a lot to lose and Rivas has got it all to gain. It's to be another good night of action on Box Nation. And the action doesn't end there. On February the 2nd, triple world title bill, WBO light heavyweight title rematch between Elidar Alvarez, who we spoke about earlier, and Sergey Kovalev. Defeat for Kovalev, and it's over. Also on that bill is Oscar Valdez, who's back after his broken jaw he sustained against Scott Quigg last March. He defends his WBO featherweight title against an Italian, Carmine Mr. Wolf Tomasone. A 3rd world title fight on the bill, as if that wasn't enough reason to tune into Box Nation for this card. Richard Comey makes his 2nd world title challenge when he meets Russian Isan Chaniev for the vacant IBF lightweight crown. I don't know what I want to say for the winner there. Be congratulations, but hard luck, because in April you're fighting Vasyl Lomachenko on April 12th. And they signed to that already. And then a Sunday night card on Box Nation, 10th of February. And this fight I like a lot. It's Jose Ramirez, WBC super lightweight champion. He's up against Jose Zepeda, who we know quite well in this country. Zepeda fought here in July 2015 when he challenged Terry Flanagan for what was the vacant WBO lightweight title, and he quit after 2 rounds because of a horrible shoulder injury. And that fight was just bubbling nicely then. And Ramirez, massive ticket seller. He's a popular figure in Fresno, which is one of these, biggish towns in California that's starved of sporting success. But Jose Ramirez has put it on the map. But he's got a tough fight against Jose Zepeda. Trust me.
And just a subplot there in terms of he's with Top Rank, isn't he, Ramirez?
He is. He's with Top Rank.
And Jack Cattrall's over on this side. Frank and Bob always work together. I reckon at some point we're going to see their paths cross. Jack Cattrall and Jose Ramirez in some way, shape or form. I think we'll see a fight there. So it's worth keeping an eye on these guys over there.
Yeah, and that's a good shout for that fight, given the healthy working relationship between Frank Warren and his Queensbury Promotions with Top Rank. The problem, I think, what you have with these fights, these guys, is getting Ramirez out of Fresno, because he's a rare commodity in America. Terrence Crawford does it in Omaha, Nebraska. Jose Ramirez does it in Fresno. They sell tickets.
Well, lots to look forward to on Box Nation. I'm looking forward to that, Steve. I will be tuning in. This weekend sees the return of the legendary 8th Division World Champion Manny Pacquiao. And he's got a problem on his hands in Adrian Broner. Steve, is Broner actually a problem?
I still think Pacquiao will just have enough. I mean, he's had these distractions, Broner, in the build-up to fight, court cases, and I've seen some suggestions that he's just trained to get the money and make weight. But it doesn't stop it being, a fascinating fight where Pacquiao defends his WBA world title, welterweight title. I think he's an eight weight champion.
That's a lot, isn't it?
Staggering. First big fight for Las Vegas this year. I still think Pacquiao's got just about enough to win. But I tell you what, Pacquiao, when you think his legacy and where he stands in boxing history, you'd hate his career to be ended by Adrian Broner, wouldn't you? I mean,
Well,
you'd absolutely hate it. Boxers would hate it. I can't think of a more unpopular boxer anywhere in the world than Broner. He's so crass, it's unbelievable. But you know what, Pacquiao won't be taking him lightly. He made the right thing going back to Freddie Roach's gym. I think it's a fight Pacquiao wins, but it's one of those Pacquiao Broner shouldn't even be at this weight. Pacquiao's seen his best days. It doesn't stop it being an intriguing fight that you want to watch though.
Steve, here's the thing. You said there how you would loathe for Manny Pacquiao's career to end losing to an Adrian Broner. But let's take Adrian Broner's name out of it. What if we was to say, look, Manny Pacquiao, his career's come to an end. He's lost to a 4-weight world champion to go out. That's okay, isn't it? Right,
look,
Steve?
You know what? We're going this 4-weight world champion thing, Dev. Let's get this right straight. You've done that to wind me up. You haven't got to what you're talking about, Lillis, yet, because this could be what you're talking about, Lillis. Now, Mr. Sani, 4-weight world champion. These guys jump around weights. Guys come down weights. They're not. The guys like Broner are not true. They're not 4-weight. They are 4-weight world champions.
Are.
But statistically they are. But do you really think is he fought the type of opponent to make him deservedly a 4-weight world champion?
Come on, I mean, boxing, I know.
And where I will give Broner credit though, before you think I'm laying into him, at super featherweight and lightweight, I thought he was for real. Yeah. Back in the early Box Nation days, I think it was around November 2012, he challenged Antonio DeMarco for the WBC lightweight title, hammered him, absolutely destroyed him. DeMarco at the time was most probably the best lightweight in the world. So I'm not going to say he's a bad fighter, but then suddenly jumping 2 weights and fighting past the sell-by date, barely getting past Paulie Malignaggi to become WBA world welterweight champion. Lost that in his first defence to Medina. And then he fought when he beat Alak Verdiev for that title. And then, had a defence against Ashley Fearfane. Ashley, friend of mine. But, you talk of 4-weight world champions. He's not a true one to me.
Steve, well, look, that performance against Antonio DeMarco, that at the time, because DeMarco, and I think you moved past this too quickly. DeMarco had just beaten Jorge Linares. Yeah. We're talking about how Jorge Linares went on to, become this great fighter and, gave Lomachenko a hell of a fight. DeMarco took him apart and he ripped him up. So that's the kind of momentum DeMarco had. And then Broner ripped up DeMarco.
That's how good Broner was at those weights. But the problem with Broner is he's a lunatic. He's an out-of-control lunatic. And the people around him, and I'm not on about his trainers or management because they do their best, are complete lunatics as well. I remember when I saw him fight, Daniel Ponce de Leon. March 2011, I was there, Honda Center, Anaheim. And he barely got past de Leon. There was nothing in the fight. I've never seen, as he's leaving the ring, he's having bottles thrown at him and everything because he's in a Mexican enclave there, Anaheim. You don't hear English speaking. And he didn't give a monkey. He was just laughing. But in the build-up to that fight, the entourage was already on board, these Franks around him. So he's had that around him since day one. And I don't think having these people around him hasn't given him the greatest direction. And yes, 4-weight world champion. It's crazy as it sounds, never fulfilled his potential. I would have loved to have seen him clean up at lightweight. And if he had and stayed at lightweight, imagine what fights he'd be looking forward to now. You've got Mikey Garcia around those fights, Lomachenko.
I think it's a combination of there's obviously an element of ill discipline in there. He doesn't really live the life outside of fighting, but also who was really around at that time for him to get involved in money fights at lightweight.
That's a great point. But great fighters just dominated their weights.
The other thing I'll add,
I buy your point there, though. On
Thank you. Thank you. I was selling it. And also, I'm a bit of a closet Broner fan, if I'm honest. He said one of the best lines I've ever heard in boxing when he beat Paulie Malignaggi. And there was all this stuff about girlfriends and stuff going into it. And he said, I took his belt and his girl. And for me, I was just like, oh, yeah, go on, Broner.
I can tell you a story about that. I forget what fight it was. You'd sent me out to America, to Las Vegas, Dev.
Oh, yeah.
You sent me to Las Vegas when you were running our marketing team at Box Nation. And on the day of the fight, they announced Malignaggi against Broner for the WBA fight. Although I was in Brooklyn, they announced it in Las Vegas because all the world's press were there, and it was announced on the morning of Cinco de Mayo fight in May 2013.
Yeah.
And at the press conference there, Broner got the girlfriend on the phone.
Oh yeah, no, he did, didn't he? Oh, that was amazing. Yeah, look, some of the stuff that he does. It can be deemed unsavory. There's obviously been a lot of unsavory stuff, but boxing needs characters. Here's a character, and he's a character that might well end up on the floor on Saturday night when he takes on Manny Pacquiao.
And I tell you what, he was a character, and that phone call to the ex-girlfriend of Malignaggi, how well did that sell the fight?
Yeah, quite possibly. But, I'm a closet Broner fan, and I'll be tuning in. Well, it's that time of the week again. It's the moment. The first one of the year, the moment that we've all been waiting for. Steve, I've got to ask you, it's 2019, it's January. What you talking about, Lillis?
I'm talking about these people, trolls, whatever you want to call them, who are slamming Amir Khan for fighting Terence Crawford. What do you expect him to do? If an offer comes in for really good money to fight Terence Crawford or Kell Brook, it's a no-brainer. You fight Terence Crawford. We've had other fighters go on Mission Impossible jobs in America recently, like Rocky Fielding defended his version of the WBA belt against Canelo Alvarez, and he was people saying, "Oh, he's daring to be great." Quite right too. I don't have a problem with him defending. He's the champion. He can defend against him and take these risks. But Amir Khan's doing it, and he gets slaughtered for it. You've got to realise what a great career Khan has had. Alvarez, Chris Algieri, Devin Alexander, Colazzo, they're men he's beaten in recent times. He's fought, some really good fighters. The win against Marcos Medina is still one of the best wins by a British fighter in Las Vegas. Now, I just don't get why people don't understand. And people were saying, "Yeah, look, I'm not stupid enough to sit next to you here, Dev, and say he's going to beat Terence Crawford at all." Crawford, Emil Lomachenko, they're vying to beat who is the number one in the world. So I'm not here to say he's going to win the fight. But what I will say is, you look at everybody who Crawford has fought. Would you have made Khan favourite to beat them?
Good point.
Maybe, Jose Benavides, you maybe would have had 50-50. You'd back Khan to be too quick for Jeff Horn. You would have backed him against Julius Indongo. Everyone else before that, Postel would have been a tough test for Khan, but you think he would have beaten him. Everyone else, Khan would have been favourite to beat.
Yeah, no, good point. Very good point in terms of who would Khan actually beat on Crawford's record, and maybe everyone. But yeah, no, good rant, Steve. One thing I'd add is that I hope the same pundits who are talking up Usyk's inexperience, in inverted commas, heading into a Bellew fight, the same ones that were talking about Rocky Fielding's size advantage heading into a Canelo fight, I really hope they have the same energy when it comes to talking about Amir Khan against Terence Crawford.
Usyk's inexperience.
I saw
Usyk's inexperience.
And the amateur fights are.
And the ones who are saying he won't go up to heavyweight because he's too small. Did you see him as heavyweight in the WSB?
Oh, were you actually there for that one, Steve?
Yeah, I was there at your call for that, and it was a painful 5 rounds for Joe Joyce the same night. Poor Sam Maxwell, he went in with Lomachenko and had similar treatment over 5 rounds.
Oh, wow. Well, good rant to start off. We digressed a bit, but good rant on people slagging off Amir Khan. I'm looking forward to your rant next week, Steve Lillis. Well, it's good to be back. The first podcast of 2019. And next week, Steve, now I understand you've got a bit of a guest lined up. Come on, talk to me.
Yeah, I've got Josh Warrington lined up for next week. We wanted him on this week, Dev, but I got a text from him while we've been recording, and he said, "Sorry I missed you, Steve. You can still bell me tomorrow." So I've said, we'll be on to you on Monday to get you in the can for next week to Tell us what's happening, Mr. Warrington.
Well, that is excellent news. I almost can't wait to next week's show. Remember to tweet us any comments at Steve Lillis, at SarniDev, and actually we've just set up a little Twitter account for this podcast itself. It's at The Boxing Pod. Leave us some reviews on iTunes. Leave us some love. We're loving guys. You know, we'll give you love. You give us love, we'll give you love. Okay? Tune in next week. Enjoy.